In this next session, I want to explore very briefly our thoughts and feelings together. Now, as we try and live out a value guided life, if we try and live out our values in this world and in our lives, inevitably we will come across lots of different thoughts and feelings. And some of those thoughts and feelings will be good and encouraging, and some will be challenging and difficult. And we may feel as though they're getting in the way of us living out our values and our purpose in life. We experience all kinds of thoughts and feelings like I am angry, I'm frustrated, I'm sad, I'm despairing, or thoughts like I'm useless, or I have no friends, or I can't get my head around this, all these thoughts and feelings. Now, evidence suggests two things. First of all, that we can learn to see our thoughts and feelings for what they really are. Too often we identify with them. We think that we are angry, we are our thoughts and feelings, we are frustrated. But if we can learn to see our thoughts and feelings for what they are, as words and images that we're experiencing that may or may not be true, then we can learn to have a little bit of perspective. We can learn to see them for what they are, to know that they're not necessarily true and they're not necessarily helpful. Our brain may be feeding them to us because it's trying to protect us, but actually there may not be the threat that we think they are in the moment. Secondly, the evidence suggests that when we try and get rid of our difficult thoughts and feelings, we can often make the whole situation a whole lot worse. If anyone's ever told you to don't think of a pink elephant, well, what's the first thing we do? We think of a pink elephant. Our brain just tries to amplify what we're trying not to think about or trying not to experience. But if we can learn to let our thoughts and feelings be there, if we can learn to experience them fully in the moment just as they are, that is a much more psychologically flexible way to live our lives. Now, I think we see some of these things in the life of Jesus as well. The situation that comes to mind most is Jesus in the wilderness being tempted by the devil. Now, this is particularly relevant for those of us who are in the middle of Lent at the moment. Jesus in this story is out there in the wilderness by himself, and suddenly this voice comes into his head. If you are the Son of God, turn these stones into bread. If you really are the Son of God, prove it. If you really are the Son of God, bow down and worship me. And what do we see Jesus do in that moment? Well, he doesn't fight off those voices. He lets that voice be there. He just allows it to be there, but sees it for what it is, a voice that is not true, is just a words, images that come into his world in that moment. We see Jesus allowing himself to experience emotion fully in his life. When his friend Lazarus dies, he weeps. He allows himself to experience the emotion in the moment, even though it's difficult. We see him experiencing good emotions as well. The Gospels talk about Jesus being moved with compassion in the moment to heal and to love the people around him. And also very relevant for us at this time, in that famous night before he dies, as Jesus is praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, he allows himself to experience and to articulate to God in prayer exactly what he is thinking and feeling in that moment. God, if you can, take this cup of suffering from me, but not my will, but yours be done. And so our challenge in this session is twofold. Can we learn to see our thoughts and feelings for what they really are? Just thoughts and feelings, just words and images that may or may not be true, that may or may not be helpful. And secondly, can we allow them to be there? Rather than trying to tell us, stop thinking that or stop feeling that, can we just let them be there in the moment? And so I encourage you, this is your challenge, to sit, to be still, to breathe deeply, to notice what you are thinking and feeling in this moment. You might want to write it down. You might want to say it out loud. I'm having the thought that I'm frustrated. I'm useless. I'm experiencing the feeling that I'm angry. I'm frustrated. And can we just add those things in front of it as well? I notice that I am having the thought that, whatever your thought may be, I notice that I am experiencing the feeling of frustration, sadness, grief. But adding that little phrase in front of it, I notice that I am having the thought that, or I notice that I'm experiencing the feeling of, we're just labeling those thoughts and feelings for what they really are, just thoughts and feelings, not reality, not who we are in ourselves. The second invitation is to imagine yourself in that little boat with Jesus and his disciples on the lake just before he stills the storm. Imagine yourself in that little boat and imagine all the waves swelling up around you, and those waves are like our different thoughts and feelings. Can you ride the waves in that little boat? Can you let your thoughts and feelings be there? Can you move around with them and experiencing them fully in the moment? If we can accept them, not as in rejoicing that we have them, but if we can let them be there, if we can see our thoughts and feelings for what they really are, it will really help us in the long run. May God give us grace in this session as we learn to see our thoughts and feelings for what they really are, and we learn to let them be there in our lives.